So this week I'm looking at some different passages, just some quiet time devotional thought, and I'm looking to share it with you. Oh, by the way, this is Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. And today's passage is one that's kind of a bit intriguing. It comes from the Gospel of Mark, and in the 8th chapter, the 11th through the 13th verses, it says that the Pharisees came and began to argue with Jesus, seeking from him a sign from heaven to test him. And then Mark says, and Jesus sighed deeply in his spirit and said, why does this generation seek a sign? Truly I say to you, no sign's going to be given to this generation, to these people. And Jesus left, he got in the boat again, and he went to the other side of the lake. Now, consider this passage for just a minute. Some Pharisees. Now, the Pharisees were a group of religious zealots. They firmly believed that they had a hold of God's truth, and they were the caretakers of God's truth. They understood what the law was, what the Bible said they believed, and they were going to see that it was carried out by everybody and not challenged or compromised by anyone. So these supposed caretakers of true Judaism, they come to Jesus to argue with him. I mean, I've thought a lot about what I would do with Jesus if I had a chance to talk to him. And frankly, arguing with the Son of God is not even on the top 5 of my list. They come to Jesus and they argue. They don't just come and argue. They come to argue with him. So they start arguing with him. And we don't know what it was about. Jesus did a lot of things that upset these bastions of the faith. He treated women as equal to men. He would teach women and talk to women and dine with women. And that upset him. He didn't treat the Sabbath with the rules and rigid requirements they thought the Sabbath deserved. We don't know what it was in particular that they chose to argue with Jesus about. But that's what they came to do. And Jesus's reaction is one that makes some sense. I mean, here the Pharisees come in and they're saying, all right, well, if you're right, Jesus, and God's really behind what you're saying, why don't you just call down a miracle and let us see a miracle to prove that you're right? Let God validate your argument. And Jesus had nothing to do with that. It says that Jesus sighed deeply in his spirit. He left with a shrug. You know, if people's hearts aren't willing to learn, teaching is futile. If people's minds aren't open to what God has to say, God's not going to force it upon them. And all of this is as true for you and me as it was for the Pharisees. If we've decided what we believe and we've decided what we want, and we're not open to anything else, what's God going to do? He's going to let us go our way. If we decide we want to do this, we don't care, we've rationalized it in our hearts, we think it's right. We're going to argue with God? He's not going to argue with us. Jesus did not come to earth to argue with us. He's not in the business of arguing with us. So I read this and I wonder in my mind and in my heart, how often do I argue with God? Now, I don't think God minds a good argument where we think, God, I've been wronged. I've got an issue here, but it's got to be done in the right spirit. I need to be ready at the end of the day to accept that God is God. And I'm not. And he doesn't need to provide a proof to me of who he is. I may not understand something, and I may lay out with him my concerns. I may wrestle with him over certain matters. The psalmist does. But in the end, he's right. And he won't walk away when we submit to him and decide to stay with him. So with that, I think about this thought for the day, and I just think I want to have an open heart to Jesus. I don't want to be one of these arguers. I don't want to be one of these people who demand the proof. I want to listen. I want to learn. I want to have an open heart and spirit. I hope you'll join me in that prayerfully. Lord, help me make sense of things. And he'll honor that prayer. That's your video thought for the day.